Wait, no, I think the red one clashes with the... Oh my gosh, my apologies, Leo. Are we live already?
Yes, Ava, we are live. Welcome to Fluent Talk, everybody, where our host is currently managing a scheduling crisis. I'm Leo, and eventually, that's Ava.
Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I was just texting my friend about a horrible outfit choice for a party. I need to get out of this habit of always being on call digitally, you know?
We all do. And that little moment of digital fatigue you just experienced perfectly sets up today's massive topic. Today we're asking AI automation versus human empathy. We need to break down the concept of cognitive labor. Ava, why do you look like you just saw a ghost? Is the idea of AI taking your job that terrifying?
Terrifying is an understatement. I mean, I understand the efficiency argument, but the core issue is that anything that can be reduced to a pattern, writing, design, even some coding, is now under the domain of AI. I just think that's the end of human capital.
The cognitive labor market is dead. It's simply a matter of economic inevitability. If you're not learning to prompt AI, you're becoming obsolete. You can't stop technological disruption.
But you miss the human element. AI excels at replication, but it lacks genuine imagination. Creativity is not a predictable pattern, Leo. It is the human ability to create something truly novel.
But replication is all the market demands, Ava. The market cares about output and return on investment, not the artist's feeling. The resistance to AI, frankly, is just Luddism.
Wait, Luddism? I reject that term. That's too aggressive. Can you explain what you mean for our listeners who might not be familiar with that historical concept? And remember, we are using some incredibly advanced terms today. Stick around to the end of the episode to get the full list of today's essential vocabulary, including Luddism and cognitive labor.
Luddism refers to workers who rebelled against new machinery because they saw it as a threat. Today, it's the resistance to AI based on fear rather than embracing the new tools for productivity enhancement.
So we agree the skills must change, but the ethical question of preserving our unique human capital remains unresolved. We need to focus on skills that are AI-proof.
An excellent reminder. So if we can agree that our skills need to change, what about our behavior? Ava, I watched you furiously texting a minute ago. That constant urge to check the phone is exactly why we need to dive into gamification.
Don't remind me. The ethical objection is that it bypasses our intentionality and exploits our brain's reward system. It's designed to trigger a quick dopamine spike, that little hit of pleasure, to transform genuine interest into extrinsic motivation.
Gamification is one of the most powerful tools in behavioral science, Ava. It's the application of game design elements to non-game contexts. If it motivates people to exercise or save money, what's the ethical objection? You sound exhausted just talking about it.
I am exhausted because it turns life into a constant series of small, meaningless achievements, leading to widespread digital fatigue rather than genuine satisfaction. It destroys the intrinsic motivation that comes from enjoying an activity itself.
But that is a narrow view. From a perspective of system optimization, gamification is brilliant. It provides immediate feedback and clear metrics for progress. It helps overcome the natural human tendency toward procrastination. It makes necessary tasks tolerable. We're using some high-level psychology terms here, so don't click away. We will be breaking down extrinsic motivation and gamification in the vocabulary summary at the end.
Leo, it makes tasks tolerable at the expense of our digital wellness. We are outsourcing our mental discipline to algorithms. We are becoming Pavlovian dogs responding to digital bells and whistles. And the constant input leads to genuine addiction.
So the key isn't the tool itself, but the intentionality behind its design. If an application uses gamification to promote genuine, long-term well-being, it's ethical. If it's used merely to maximize ad revenue and screen time, then it crosses the line into manipulation.
That is a fair distinction. We need users to develop digital literacy. Intrinsically motivated behavior is the only sustainable goal.
Speaking of literacy and manipulation, our next segment takes us out of the digital world and into the real one, the climate change communication crisis. Why do people still deny the facts? It's a massive failure of ethical communication.
Speaking of literacy and manipulation, our next segment takes us out of the digital world. Ava, I think this is where we get truly angry. The climate change communication crisis.
That is the ultimate test of human empathy. Why do people still deny the facts? It's a communication failure rooted in psychology and corporate lobbying.
Sorry about that, everyone. It sounds like someone dropped their coffee thermos outside the studio. Ava, are we good on sound? Okay, let's keep going. Where were we? Yes. The core problem, confirmation bias.
Right. That almost made me jump out of my chair. But yes, the persistence of climate change denial is rooted in confirmation bias. For our listeners, confirmation bias is the tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms your prior beliefs. It creates an information silo.
Exactly. And these information silos turn into echo chambers online. But the problem isn't just organic belief, it's systemic. The relentless misinformation and propaganda funded by corporate lobbying actively fuels the denial.
And the failure isn't just data, Leo. It's a lack of empathy. We need to stop focusing on data models and start focusing on local impact. Show the fishing community what the rising sea levels mean for their jobs. We're using high-level vocabulary on ethics and politics today. Don't click away. We will be reviewing all the definitions for confirmation bias and corporate lobbying in our special summary segment at the very end.
I agree the narrative must be localized, but we must also address the enormous structural power of corporate lobbying, which uses money to ensure that misinformation drowns out legitimate scientific voices. That requires regulatory action, not just better storytelling.
So we agree that the problem is either bad storytelling or systemic corruption. That sounds like a typical Tuesday debate on Fluent Talk.
Exactly. And speaking of corruption and hidden power structures, let's turn inward for our next segment, the ethics of personal privacy. Are we truly the customer or are we the product? We'll be discussing surveillance capitalism.
Exactly. And speaking of systemic corruption and hidden power structures, let's turn inward for our next segment, the ethics of personal privacy. Are we truly the customer or are we the product? We'll be discussing the value of data monetization.
That's the final sacrifice we make in the digital age. We'll explore the danger of surveillance capitalism and whether we can ever regain digital sovereignty in a world where everything we do is tracked. The core issue, Leo, is a total erosion of personal privacy. Every time we click I agree without reading the terms, we are signing away our right to digital sovereignty. We've developed consent fatigue. I just can't keep up.
Consent fatigue, I like that. That perfectly captures the apathy we feel. Can you clarify how that relates to data monetization?
Consent fatigue is the mental exhaustion that comes from being asked to constantly review and accept privacy policies. This apathy is what enables data monetization, where our intimate behavioral data is bought and sold.
But let's be pragmatic. Data is the oil of the 21st century. Data monetization is what funds these free services we rely on. We trade a small amount of our data for massive utility, like customized news feeds. My mic. Whoops. Sorry, my mic just had a little moment there. Okay, I'm back. Where was I? Right. You can't have technological progress without mass data. You're trading efficiency for a theoretical loss of privacy.
It's not theoretical, it's the definition of surveillance capitalism. It's an economic system built on exploiting our attention and predicting our behavior for profit. The concept of digital sovereignty, the idea that individuals should have control, is completely lost. We've just thrown out the phrase surveillance capitalism. That's a huge term. Stay tuned for our summary segment at the end where we break down data monetization and all the key terms from this debate.
I acknowledge that surveillance capitalism is morally uncomfortable, but the solution isn't to stop sharing data. It's to implement strict data governance and ensure transparency. We need to focus on making companies accountable.
Accountability is key, but until we recognize that our personal data is core human capital, not just raw material for algorithms, we will always be the product, not the customer. We need to regain that digital sovereignty.
Well said. That brings us to our final and most personal ethical dilemma, the financial freedom paradox. We'll discuss financial literacy, the reality of lifestyle creep, and the fantasy of early retirement.
Well said. That brings us to our final and most personal ethical dilemma, the financial freedom paradox. We'll discuss financial literacy, the reality of lifestyle creep, and the fantasy of early retirement.
That's the ultimate human question. We'll debate financial independence, the burden of student loan debt, and if there's a sustainable path to true wealth in the final segment. I need to catch my breath after that last debate. The financial freedom paradox is this. We are told that with discipline and financial literacy, anyone can achieve early retirement. Yet, for a generation burdened by massive student loan debt and rising costs, the idea feels like a cruel joke.
The math doesn't lie, Ava. The path to financial independence, or FIRE, financial independence, retire early, is purely mathematical. Save 25 times your annual expenses. The biggest obstacle isn't the system, it's lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is when your standard of living increases as your is it discretionary income or disposable? Ava, remind me, is it income after taxes or income you just choose to spend?
You're the finance guy, Leo. It's discretionary income. Lifestyle creep means you get a raise, and instead of saving, you immediately buy a bigger car. You nullify the raise's saving potential.
Right, thank you. See, even the experts need a little external human capital sometimes. But that is the point. The problem is self-control, not the math.
No, that sounds like blaming the victim. While lifestyle creep is real, you can't ignore the systemic hurdles. The crushing debt load. The FIRE movement often ignores the privilege required just to start saving significantly. We've just thrown out 3 massive finance terms. Make sure you stay tuned for our final segment where we break down the meaning of lifestyle creep, debt load, and financial independence.
Because the goal is autonomy. Financial independence is the ultimate power structure hack. It requires discipline, minimizing debt load, and mastering financial literacy. It is the antithesis of hustle culture because the hustle has an end date.
So one perspective says it's mathematical discipline, and the other says it's systemic privilege. I guess we'll have to agree to disagree, Leo. Again.
And that brings us to the most valuable part of the show, your vocabulary takeaway. We use some powerful terms today, so let's make sure they stick.
Exactly. This is your essential list. Listen carefully. Let's get started. First, cognitive labor. This means work that involves mental effort like analysis or problem solving. Example, AI is now replacing basic cognitive labor.
Next, Luddism. This refers to resisting new technology out of fear of losing your job. Example, critics often dismiss concerns about AI as mere Luddism.
Third, extrinsic motivation. This is doing something for an external reward, like a badge or money. Example, gamification relies heavily on extrinsic motivation.
Fourth, surveillance capitalism. This is the economic system where your personal data is monitored and sold for profit. Example, many free apps are funded by surveillance capitalism.
Fifth, confirmation bias. This is the tendency to accept information that supports your existing beliefs. Example, The political debate is often polarized due to confirmation bias.
And finally, lifestyle creep. This is when your spending increases immediately after you get a raise. Example, to achieve financial independence, you must actively fight lifestyle creep.
We covered a lot of ground today. Thank you for sticking with us through the debates on AI, privacy, and finance.
And don't forget our final unresolved question. Is early retirement a realistic goal for the average person, or is it reserved for the privileged? We want to hear your well-argued opinions in the comments below.
Remember to hit that subscribe button. We post a brand new episode with fresh debates and more essential vocabulary every single day at 6 a.m. on the English Easy channel.
We'll see you next time. Bye for now.